Hey guys, welcome back to System Breakdowns. As always, I'm Greg Koval with Koval Taekwondo. Today we're going to talk about the Lioness, Amanda Nunes. Unquestionably the greatest female fighter of all time, maybe even one of the greatest fighters, period, of all time. There's a really strong argument for that with her. She's unbelievable. And the thing is, you know what, this is going to be a shorter video because there's not a lot involved in her system. But it's a really great example of, like, for example, somebody like a Khabib who has a very simple set of objectives. He's not doing anything different from fight to fight. He's doing the same thing. But just because you know he's going to do it doesn't mean you can stop it. And it's the same thing with Amanda Nunes. Her system is very simple, but it's very effective. And she's very good at what she does. And just because you know she's doing it doesn't mean you can stop it. And so today we're going to talk about what she does. You're going to notice some trends from things that we've talked about in other videos, including like a lot of similarities between things that Conor McGregor does, a lot of similarities between what Stipe Miocic does. You'll notice that a lot of these things are common trends amongst these great fighters. So when you talk about system breakdowns and putting it into your own system, we want you to pay attention to that stuff, because if everybody at the top level is able to pull this off, this is the stuff that's making them great, is the ability to implement these game plans. And so what I want you to do is stay tuned, and we're going to get right to Amanda Nunes and the system breakdown that allows her to be so successful. Alright guys, so when you talk about Amanda Nunes, the first thing you gotta understand is that her system is all really designed around the idea of playing to her strengths. Just like when we talked about some of these other guys, like Stipe Miocic, uses his wrestling and builds a game around his wrestling, right? Same concept. What is she great at? 1, she's a Taekwondo black belt. 2, she's a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. 3, she's a Judo brown belt. And 4, she's got boxing experience. So she builds a system around what she's great at, which fortunately for her is pretty much everything. But here's what she does. First of all, whenever I break down a fighter, the first thing I like to look at is footwork. In her case, you know, when you get a guy like Wonder Boy who uses this, you know, real in and out bouncing, it's very hard to track them down. And that type of dynamic footwork is always going to give you an advantage over somebody who's stationary, right? When they're walking you down, they're going to have a hard time catching you because you're always out of range until you want to be in range. You get to set when you engage, not them. And that's one thing that she does really well. Hers is actually a little bit more similar to Machida because she uses more of a front stance and she's a little bit more squared off. I think it's probably because she's more concerned about leg kicks, whereas Wonder Boy, he just slides that foot out of the way. I think she wants to be able to check it, but frankly, a lot of people don't throw those leg kicks at her anyway. So it could be just a personal preference that she likes being more squared off for her boxing. But in any case, she's still, if you notice, very mobile, very light on her feet, in and out. And this is a huge advantage at the beginning of the fight to stay out of range until she wants to be in range. From there, she adds in a lot of feints. You know, very much like we talked about with Israel Adesanya, that feint system is really important to have an established feint system. And with her, people already have a fear of her hands, and she uses this to her advantage. So she does this type of walking in to try to pull out attacks and to threaten. She constantly is threatening the jab in the same way that Izzy does. And this is how she caught Holly Holm. She got her so worried about what was coming with these constant feints that Holly Holm, a very experienced kickboxer, dropped her hands and got a roundhouse kicked in the head. This also ties in with how she then sets up from the outside. You know, when she's using this feint system and she's bouncing, now what she's going to do is she's going to do one of 3 attacks predominantly. 1, she's going to come in here and she's going to throw a calf kick. And she's going to break down legs. Man, that's a really important part of her game because it's hard for them to contend with. This is very hard for them to stop, especially that calf kick. And she can just pick away at them and take away their mobility, somebody who's already slower, and make it a huge challenge. Going back to Raquel Pennington, this is a fight that she got a knockout by blasting through that knee, right? This is a really, really important advantage to be able to take away somebody's legs in a fight. And for her, because she's already more mobile, it's low risk to her. Low risk, high reward. And that's what she wants. So from right here, she's out here, she's throwing the feint, constant jabs, bam, gets back out. Same thing, bam, back out. The second attack she'll do and she's going to do this dropping body cross. You'll notice how I almost go straight line on this. This is what she does. She doesn't attack it with her body upright. She leans in because she wants to cover distance and be as far away as possible when she does this. But the other advantage is this. She wants to put her head off the line. If you go back and watch the Conor McGregor breakdown, one of the things we talked about is he fights from this kind of southpaw stance with his head off the line, and he throws this big cross and comes up with uppercuts. He does this because as they throw a counterpunch, his head's way dropped. She does the same thing a lot, and we're going to talk about why that becomes important later on. But when she throws this outside body cross, she drops her head real low to throw it. And it's a nice way of taking away somebody's win. So, now from the outside, while she's evasive and hard to track down, she's throwing feints, she's attacking your legs, and she's attacking your wind. And you'll see her bounce between these two in particular a lot, where she'll attack leg, body, body, leg, and she goes back and forth between them. The third thing that she'll add in to mix up from the outside is then she starts throwing in some kicks. And she'll be in here, and she'll throw front kicks to the body. She'll throw high roundhouse kicks. Like I said, going back to Holly Holm, she feinted. She got her afraid of the hands, right? Constant threatening with jab. And then she went to the head and knocked her out. And Holly Holm's super experienced, so it shows how effective she is at this system. So from there, she will also sometimes mix in things like turning wheel kicks and like the spinning hook kick and stuff like that. But to be totally honest, she doesn't have a great success ratio on it. And I think she mostly throws it in for the same reason that Conor McGregor does. You know, when we talked about his breakdown, a lot of it was, I throw this kick to back them up. Because what she does is she wants to walk them back slowly, right? And if you notice, there's a deceptiveness in her footwork that I want to point out, and this is really important. When she backs up, she doesn't back up as far as she initially started from. So while you feel like she is out all the way, then in all the way, let's put a line of right here, okay? So right here is where she starts from. And what she's going to do is she's going to come in and kick, and then she comes to here. She goes still out of range, but a little bit more shallow. But what do people do from there? They naturally adjust for it, and they back up slightly. It is a subtle tactic where she slowly walks them forward by going in and out. But she doesn't go out as far as she went in. Does that make sense? I hope so. This tactic, what you'll see is that because of the fact that she's chipping away at their legs, she's catching them in the body, they're concerned about the head, they're slowly getting walked back. And this is what she wants. She wants them up against the cage for the same reason that Conor McGregor did. Once they're there, they can't evade out as easily. And that's when she really likes to punish them. The other thing is that now, as she starts to work them from the outside, now she starts looking for opportunities. And the whole time that she's working the outside, what she really wants is this opportunity to send her big right downs. And this is what she's known for. It is her big knockout technique. And a lot of this comes from the fact that when she throws it, other fighters, you know, they throw big, powerful crosses that their whole body's into. You know, if you look at Chris Cyborg, super, super powerful fighter, right? But when she throws a very classic cross. Amanda Nunes throws it more like an overhand right. She gets her range, and she really throws everything into it. It's her whole body dropping into this. And once again, she's going to throw her head off the line while she does this. But that type of a shot is way more powerful. This is why her hands are so deadly. There's also something to be said for some people just have the knack to hit hard. There's no science to it. They and somebody else can do the exact same technique, and for whatever reason, they put their body behind it in just the right way, and they're just more powerful. That's Amanda Nunes. She's got that. Whatever it is that makes guys like Ngannou hit hard, aside from just being enormous. There's Stipe Miocic is a good example. He's a guy who just hits hard. Amanda Nunes is like that, and she knows it. And sometimes she'll just get in there and say, like, she'll bite down on her mouthpiece and know, I can hit harder than this guy because I'm putting more into it. And she'll take that. She'll take an exchange because she knows she comes out on top. You know, if you're going to fight somebody like her, you can't be in those exchanges, right? Because she will bite down on her mouthpiece if it comes down to it to get a knockout. But really, that's not her game plan. She does that more because as somebody's engaging, she's got to counter, right? But one of the things that helps her with that is she's getting inside position whenever she does it. She never, if you notice in exchanges, she always has inside position. She might let the jab on the outside, but that cross, that right hand, is always on an inside position. This is part of why she takes way less damage. In exchanges, she generally comes out on top because when she does it, she's not throwing on the outside and letting you connect clean. She's throwing on the inside, and you're probably catching a little bit more shoulder. You're catching more rolling. You're not catching the same clean shots that she is. This is a really important aspect when you talk about exchanges. Anytime you get in a situation where we're both trading blows, it's very important to be on the inside because you're going to get more power, and this is how you win exchanges. However, her ultimate goal is not to win by knockout. I know it looks that way because she's got all these first-round knockouts, right? Because she's so powerful that she just gets in there. You know, she plays the outside game, and then she comes in, bam! And that girl is just unconscious because she hit so hard. But her game plan is not to do this. Her game plan is to come in here and drop low to get to the body clinch, which she does consistently well. And this is a thing that part of the reason she wants to put her head off of the line is so she can come in here, get her double unders, and once she has double unders, you're going for a ride. She's going to use her judo, and she has a couple of really nice takedowns that she uses. She's going to go for the Kouchigari. One of my favorite takedowns that she'll do is she'll come in here and go for Kosotogari, and as you step back, or go for Osotogari, and as you step back, she'll go for Kosoto and follow it through. She'll come in here, she'll go for Tayatoshi. She is very, very good from that position. Much better than almost anybody else in the women's division. I think the only person who's ever had better judo is Ronda Rousey, obviously. But Ronda Rousey got starched by her boxing. So, everybody else, though, high-level wrestlers cannot take her down, man. She has amazing takedown defense because her judo is so top-notch. And whenever you get into these exchanges, she's almost always able to get to this inside clinch, and she uses it consistently well. So, her game plan is designed around getting to that position, though. So while it looks on the outside like she just wants to bang, the reality is that's not what she's looking for. That's just a happy byproduct of being amazing at punching. So her game plan is really stay on the outside, work the calf, work here, work some kicks, right? And just keep working the outside until it's time. Bam! Drop my head off the line and then get to a body clinch. Once she gets to a body clinch, she comes in here, she's going to do a takedown, and then once she gets you on the ground, her black belt in jiu-jitsu really pays off. Generally speaking, her jiu-jitsu game, what I really like about it is that it's a very classic style progression. A lot of guys are content to sit in half guard and just kind of pound away. She is not content to ever just allow half guard or close guard to be a finishing point. She is always progressing on. She's going to cut. She'll knee cut from half guard into a side control or slide into a mount, and that's where she's going to work. She's going to work a mounted ground and pound, wait till you roll away, and catch it back, where she's either going to choke you or she's going to pound the crap out of you. And she does this consistently well. And what I like is that while her end game from the ground is always a ground and pound, generally speaking, she gets there through excellent jiu-jitsu progression. And so when you see her fight, you can look to see her go for that mount. You can look to see her go for, as they roll away, taking the back. And she consistently does this to people, which is why she's got so many first-round knockouts from there, because she institutes this game plan. And it's very much the same as so when I do jiu-jitsu, if I'm working from a closed guard, my goal is to get a sweep. Once I get to the sweep, I might get to a top half. My goal is then to progress to side. My goal from there is to get to a mount. My goal from there is then to submit. And in the very classic style of jiu-jitsu, a position before submission, she does the same thing. She's going to work the outside, and then that outside she uses to throw the bombs, which she's going to use to drop underneath to get the body clinch, which she's going to use to get a throw. From here, she's going to progress to the top mount or the back mount, and then it's just ground and pound, and that's all she wrote. She uses the same strategy every fight. There's not some crazy deviations in it. You don't see a lot of mix-ups like you see with Jon Jones, where you see all sorts of different strategies that you got to watch out for. She's doing the same game plan, but she does it excellent. And so when you're building your own system, I want you to take this into account. Find the things that you are excellent at and master them. You know, there's a difference between black belt and goal of getting to like a high level of understanding of a lot of techniques, from ability to share information and pass it on. That is different from a competitive standpoint, where you take a few things and you master them and you learn how to prevent them from exploiting weaknesses and going to other areas. And that's what she does. She keeps the game focused on what she wants it to be. And the further she gets into her career, the better she's gotten at this, which is why she's so dangerous. Other than that, I think that's really the majority. The only other thing I do want to mention is one thing that she also consistently, I've seen her do, is if you do happen to back her up, one of the things that she's very good at is she's going to go for the double underhooks, like I said, if you start to try to, you know, crowd her and start to push her up against the cage. But once you get her to a cage, she's always reaching over for a Kimura. Every single time. And she's never had to land it because people abandon it, and then she's able to get underneath on them. But the threat alone seems to be enough to keep them from following through. But I'm waiting for the day where she gets to follow it through in that very Nick Diaz style. Get the Kimura and then bring it over to the top mounted Kimura. I'm waiting for that to happen, for her to get to that side, not mounted, but side controlled Kimura, as they back her up to follow it through. It's something I want to kind of mention because you will consistently see her do it. So I do think it is part of her system to establish that this is what she does when she gets put in this position. But when you talk about systems of fighting, she's a really great example of somebody who has a very clear-cut, systematic approach to how she fights. Every fight, she goes into it with the same idea of what she wants to do. She just gets better at it every time she fights, and she makes small adjustments depending on who she fights. And this is what you should be looking for in your game. Pick the one or two things you're great at, make it so that you can hit it on everybody, and then build upon that to get to the next step of where you want to be. Anyway, this has been Greg Koval with Koval Taekwondo. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, and thanks for watching.